Welcome to my channel. I'm Daniel Norton, photographer here in New York City, although today I'm in my home office because we're doing some photo editing. So if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I'm one of those get it right in the camera guys. And a couple years ago now, I stopped using Photoshop. I stopped using a lot of post-processing software. I primarily work in Capture One. That being said, there's times when I want to get kind of a classic touch-up or a batch of a classic touch-up. So I've done a few videos, I've been looking into different software, basically how we can get this done. And fortunately, Rebloom reached out to me to do a review of their product. So today we're going to look at the Rebloom software. It's basically a AI retoucher, if you will, and it's a very simplified one. This has got only a couple of sliders and we'll see how it does. I'll look at a couple of different photo shoots I've done and we'll kind of go through them. And then I'm also going to show you how it integrates with Capture One. So let's jump over to my screen over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over here. This is a full Capture One project that we just worked on recently, if you saw this live stream. But first we're going to jump over here. This was from a while back. These are some headshots. And this is exactly the kind of thing where I would use this for, just to kind of quickly clean up a headshot for somebody to use online, stuff like that. So I'm going to open up the software. And it's very simple. Oh, it opened in my other window, so let me grab it. All right, so we've got a really, you can see, this is a very simple interface. If you just had one or two that you want to edit, you can just grab and drag and drop them, or you can choose, so I can hit this, or we can come over here and pick the ones we want, or we can do them all. Let's just do them all for now. So we're gonna take all of these and open them up. So what we've got here, and if you're going to do a batch like this, I recommend editing down just the ones you want and not doing a whole folder like this necessarily, because like, for instance, I don't really want to do this one, so why waste my time? But for the purposes of this video, we'll just take a look at it. So we've got all our images at the bottom here. And what we're going to do is we'll jump into one, let's say this one, like a random one here. Find one I like actually, that'll probably, yeah, there we go, that's pretty good. So I'm just scrolling across the bottom. Here we go, this was going to be pretty good. Now you can see it already dropped the natural effect on it. So it's already working right now. And we can see that it looks pretty good. Now, of course, if we look at the image without the natural effect, we can see what it's cleaned up. Now that's pretty decent for me. But if you wanted to reduce it, you've got a couple of sliders to work with. So you've got your general slider, which is kind of the overall working of the software. So we can see we're bringing back like that little dimple there and this little dimple here if we want that. And then we also have a texture slider where we can reduce or increase the amount of kind of texture it removes. And when I say removes, I should say fixes, right? Because it doesn't make this kind of blurry glow. It retouches it effectively just like you would. So let's say we go full blast here and we drop the texture. We can see what that does. Cadence, of course, this is cadence. It doesn't have a ton of texture in your skin, so that's good for the retoucher because we don't have to do much. And, this looks pretty good to me. So let's start here. Now I like that, but if you want a more kind of glowy, fashion-y, there's actually something called fashion. So we hit fashion, we can see that this is a little bit more of a glamorous retouch, if you will. So here, again, I have the slider set at the same spot, but we can see the difference between natural, okay, and fashion. And then of course, this is with nothing here. So we get nothing, fashion, natural. Now I think for this image where it's got a lot of texture, the fashion actually might look really nice. But it also is a headshot. For me, the natural might be better overall for headshots. So here's natural, we're leaving that on. And I think I'm going to increase the amount. And come in here. And then we'll kind of work with the texture here to get it where we like it. So again, we can go through these. If you're going to do them one at a time, I recommend doing them one at a time. But you can do a batch like this, which is very nice if you've got a lot of very similar images. So if I had 10 different images, I wouldn't do them all at once. I don't think that's as practical. So once we've got that done, it's a simple matter of hitting save. We pick our location. Let's say desktop. We'll make a new folder and we'll say touched up. Create. And we'll just hit open. And now it's just going to go through and touch them up. So while I'm doing this, let me talk a little bit about the software in general. So as you may have noticed, this is kind of a small software package that runs directly on my Mac. It's not connected to an online cloud server or anything like that, which is really great if you're doing something that needs security and you don't want to put anything out on the cloud. Like let's say it's a new product announcement or something like that. I do quite a few of those. Or if you just want to work offline. I often, especially in the summer when the weather's nice, I often grab my laptop and go down to the park and work on editing my images. Well, with this software here, I don't need to be connected to the internet to do my retouching, which is very nice. Okay, so we're all set. Then it closes down and we're ready to go. Now we can take a quick look at these by jumping onto my desktop. Again, I made this folder touched up and here we are. So again, I can just hit the button and see what we got. You can see how there's definitely still texture in the skin. So it looks pretty natural. I mean, that one didn't really have, these are a little bit dark. Should have dealt with that in Capture One, which we'll talk about in a second. Yeah, this looks really good. Again, nice and simple. It doesn't have a lot of options, and I think that's a strength here. If you just want something to run through your images and kind of clean them up quickly, I think this works really well. So that's great for a batch, like if you have a whole folder of stuff you've already exported, like I often do. But if you want to do things kind of one at a time or while you're working, let me show you how this integrates with Capture One. Now, I should mention, as I'm opening Capture One, that it also integrates with Lightroom and Photoshop, but I don't use those software packages, so we'll look at Capture One. Okay, so we're looking at a pretty recent live stream that I did for Adorama. I've already kind of gone through and done my tweaks as I do in Capture One. There's videos on the channel if you want to see how I do that. But basically now I have these selects, right? These are the images that I'm going to send to my subject, in this case, Marissa. And let's say though that we're looking at one and we want to do a little bit of retouching on it with the Reblum software. Let's take one that I really like. I think Marissa, actually, I sent her these already and she posted this one. So let's do this one. So this clearly is one she likes. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to come down and say edit with Reblum. All right, we have some options here. This is going to be our ultimate format that it exports in. So do we want to have a JPEG, a PNG, or a TIFF file? I'll say a JPEG, so I'm going to send it to model. We can, 8-bit here, and then we can go sRGB, which is what I normally do here. We can set our resolution and our scale, right? So if we want to do, let's say we want to do, typically for a model, I'll go pixels, 2000 pixels wide. It's usually big enough for them to use for most things. Here, I'm going to respect the crop, even though there is no crop on it. I'm not going to do sharpening on output, and I'm going to keep all my metadata. So with all that being done, I'm going to hit edit. And then it's going to pop up. It actually is popping up in my other window. And here we go. Okay, so it already added the adjustments for natural, full blast natural. So let's take a quick look at this. We've got, I can see that in the background. We're going to go here to see what it looks like with nothing. Okay, you can see it's pretty subtle. Now, so what I really want, because Marissa has very prominent lips, we often get a shadow around them. So I like how it's actually working with that. You can see how it's reducing that shadow around the lips. But I also want to keep texture in her cheeks because I hit her with a pretty flat light, so there's already not much texture there. So in this case, I'm actually going to grab the texture slider and move it down because I want maximum amount of that shadow reduction, right? But I also want less texture removed. I'm going to remove that. And what we get is, so that's with nothing. We can see we can still have most of our texture here. And again, we can always look just to see what the fashion one does. It doesn't take that long just to kind of kick that in. It just ups it a bit more. I think in this case, we don't need that. So we'll come back to natural. And that looks good to me. Let's zoom in. And yeah, that's very nice. Let's take a look. Okay, so before, after, right? All it's doing is that subtlety right there because I'm not doing any texture really. Again, I could do more texture if you just want to see what that looks like. That's full texture. So in natural mode, you can see it still leaves a decent amount of texture, even if I didn't reduce it. And we'll take a quick look at fashion up close as well. We can see it kind of cleans it up a little bit more. Let me kind of do this and drop the texture, show what that looks like. Huh, you know what? I said I didn't really want fashion here, but I think fashion with no, yeah, I like that a lot actually. And then once we've done this, we hit OK, and it saves it. So what it's doing is it's saving it in our capture folder, and we can just jump to the Finder. And of course, it's the last one, so it's right there. And we can take a look at it. So this is the touched up image. And that's the original. TouchTup, original. So you can see it's subtle, right? It's not this over-the-top, terrible-looking retouch. It's actually real clean. So with Reblum, you get a 1-week free trial. So load up a folder with a bunch of images you want to mess with and download the software. Give it a shot. Run it for a week. If you're interested in purchasing it, you can do a 1 month, a 1 year, or a lifetime subscription, and you will save 20% on that if you follow my link. So please do check the description below for the link. This is a pretty interesting software for me because, as I said at the beginning, I'm not one that delves into a lot of retouching. But sometimes, especially with things like headshots and portraits, you just want to kind of clean them up. And I don't want to take the time that it would take me in Capture One to do that. So having this kind of software where I can go through, do all my tweaks in Capture One, export them to a folder, and then basically run it in the background and just do a nice natural retouch over a bunch of images is really a good option for me. Let me know if this is an option for you. Is this the kind of thing you're looking for in software? How much time do you spend retouching images? Do you love retouching images? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks, Reblum, for sponsoring this video. That's always great when a company reaches out like this, especially when it's a product that I actually want to try. So thanks again. If you haven't already, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all that goodness, and I'll talk to you soon.